Hey, good morning, Instagram, from a very rainy Sedona, Arizona this morning. Continuing our short Instagram and IGTV video chats. Today I wanted to pick up where we may have left off, Margot and I sort of both together. We often simultaneously are kind of thinking the same thing, so I don't think that's too strange. But thinking more this morning about the professionalization of midwifery, the sustainability of midwifery, and realizing that those two really go hand in hand. I was thinking more specifically about how I love to work with women one-on-one as a midwife, and how by many, I'm sure, that may be viewed as lack of professionalism. So I think that definitely ties in with where midwifery is going, the kind of educations that are being offered, and the solutions to sustainability. So Margot kind of touched on that the other day. If a solution to being more sustainable is something like a group practice, is that really something we identify with? And we each have to answer that ourselves. I know I don't, and I'm going to talk more about that. But I'm also wanting to just hear from women out there too that may have hired midwives or are aspiring midwives. Like, what type of connection are you looking for in this work with other women? I think that's a crucial question to answer. And if we don't answer that and come from a place of our own truth with that, then something like professionalism becomes more important. And it's about this being a job, and it's about, numbers and having things look a certain way and kind of be functioning more in a medicalized model. So I was chatting with a client yesterday who was also a friend, hence this topic, as many of my clients are. So this role of midwife as someone above the women who has very strict boundaries around how they midwife and when they're allowed to be contacted, and this desire, I think, from many midwives to highly separate the personal and professional, to me, is kind of a problem and makes midwifery a whole lot less appealing to some women and a whole lot less sustainable, because we're trying to take what is women's work and fit it into sort of more of a male box, which, I know that's how other people may do things, whatever. I'm just bringing up the fact that that's not the way I do it. So back to the client, that's also a friend. She was saying, it's so unique how you work. She's like, I've met many midwives and I have many friends that are midwives, and they're all so firm on these boundaries of midwife and friend and personal and professional. And her feeling was, it's really hard to get to know people that way. And her concern as a pregnant mama was just like, why? Why no personal relationship? Like, you're going to be at my birth, where is the line sometimes? So I'd love to hear more from other people, how that's working or not for you, if you've approached practicing more that way. And again, as women, like, do you like your midwife to have these boundaries so you feel really clear as to what your relationship is? Would you desire a more personal relationship? Do you think it's weird, to be friends with your midwife? Do you think it's weird to hang out with her if you like her? Maybe your kids get together. So I don't know another way, and I'm totally open to that all shifting as I get older. Perhaps one day when I'm more in the grandma role, I'll have different relationships with women for obvious reasons. But right now, and for the whole time that I've been working as a midwife, I don't feel that way. I only work with the women that I feel I have a resonance with and I want to build a personal relationship with them because that's midwifery to me. I don't know another way. And it's selfish is the wrong word, but it's also something I consider really important if you're going to be walking with a woman this closely, this intimately in her birth space, and then beyond into mothering, which is one of the most like intimate and vulnerable places a woman can be. So boundaries, I mean, I get it. We want to talk about boundaries and we want to feel like we're putting those up in the world. But I think that's also more of an internal kind of thing. Like my boundary would be, I don't want to work with people that I don't feel are the right match. You know, there's a boundary for me. I don't want to work with anybody. And I don't think, you know, women out there should be pleased with working with just anybody. I think there's really a place for each woman searching out the kind of midwife and the kind of relationship she wants. So, you know, I'm not saying that this is the way it should work for everyone. And in full transparency, you know, am I absolutely friends with every single person that I've ever worked with? We're friendly, but sure, there are people that, you know, you just kind of move on and you may keep in touch, but, you know, your relationship doesn't go beyond that. But I think, again, it's back to this idea of professionalization and really male boundaries that I don't know what that's doing for midwifery. I think it's really changing it. And I think it's making women sort of misunderstand what is possible. So again, it doesn't have to be for everyone, but I think a lot of women would absolutely love having a midwife that was emotional support and spiritual support, rather than this like hard and fast line, you know, I'm the one that charts in the other room. I don't provide emotional support. Does not resonate with me, which is why I don't typically encourage women to hire, you know, doulas in addition, because I think I'm mostly a doula, you know, with some extra knowledge. But again, that's the way I do things. And I'm really offering it because I don't think it's talked about a lot, you know. In this day and age, everyone is getting their papers signed off and trying to get this certification or that certification. But what's actually important to you, you know, when all is said and done and you're kind of in it, what is going to keep you in it? And for me, it's the joy of personal relationships. I absolutely wouldn't do this if I didn't feel close to these women. And, you know, sometimes it's too close. Like, I think that's a valid way of feeling as well. Sometimes my emotional investment feels like too much. And that's a hard place to be too. You know, it's hard to remain detached when things don't work out the way people want them to, or whatever. So it's not all roses, but this is the path that I've chosen and the way that keeps me in this work engaged and joyful. And so I don't know another way. And so, you know, just to offer up something funny that came across my desk this morning, funny as far as synchronicity, was a study. I get these like study updates pretty much every day from academia.edu, and they're really great because they're really midwifery focused. So the one that came up this morning was the difference in women's feelings when they worked with 2 midwives in a practice consistently versus 4. And so, you know, 2, of course, is way different than 1. That's like actually not at all what I'm saying. But, you know, as far as more personalities to deal with, the study wound up saying that women were less pleased. They were less connected and felt less supported when they had up to 4 midwives running their care. So again, how are we redreaming this? How are we rethinking this thing we call midwifery? And again, I want to hear from, you know, actual pregnant women too, how it's working for them. Is there someone like this in your community? You know, or does it feel very, very medicalized and very professional that you wouldn't feel comfortable confiding in your midwife or having her support you through certain aspects of pregnancy? You would, you know, call someone else. You would call a doula or whatever. So again, that to me is the absolute gold of serving in this role, that it's complex and it's intimate, and the woman-to-woman connection is absolutely the most important part to me. So I don't know another way. I really can't see myself altering that a whole lot in the future. Maybe having a partner midwife. Margot and I used to work more closely together when she actually lived here. And, that was something that felt really right. And I still think with the women that we worked with together, we each were able to have sort of, our own separate relationship with this woman, which I think is really valuable too, if it's all kind of coming together in a way. Because certainly we all have different talents and tools, so to speak, right? So there's nothing wrong with working with people if you are still feeling like you're getting that personal relationship connection, whether you're the midwife or you're the woman. I think that is really key. And of course, there have been other, sort of like papers and things written on that the connection with another woman is super crucial for a lot of women. And that's not coming from like this clinical perspective, of the person necessarily knowing more or telling them what to do. It's simply being supported and being witnessed. I'm a midwife. I've been a midwife for 10 plus years, and I serve as an independent midwife in my community and run indiebirth, which you can check out here or go to our website. We are actively creating and training midwives to work more in this model and to consider these kind of things. So again, with this professionalization, with this need for certification and all of these things, are we giving up what's really important to us, which again, to me, is the woman-to-woman connection. Phone call. I think that's all I have to say about it this morning, and just putting it out there, asking you all to consider that if you're a midwife, even if you're a doula, it doesn't matter, or maybe you're a student midwife, or you're a mom, like what is important to you with this subject? What kind of relationship feels good? How do you feel most supported? If you're a midwife, what are your boundaries and what can you give? And if you're very much defined, like if you have a role that feels firmly defined for some reason, question that. I think we should always all be questioning all the time what we're doing and why we're doing it and where we're coming from and where we're ultimately going. That's how we stay true to ourselves, and that's how things change for the better. So right now, it's not something I'm willing to sacrifice on. I'm less concerned with being professional and more concerned with being the support that I feel like women deserve and need in their pregnancies and births. I'm concerned with doing my own work so I can stay clear and showing up. I think that's another huge topic that perhaps a video needs to be made on. Showing up in our own integrity so that we can serve women. And from that place, there is no wrong or right. It doesn't matter what other people are doing, but I guess I don't feel like enough people are probably questioning that with the way things look. So again, people just so concerned with becoming this thing and having this paper and working and having it make money. We're human and we're considering those things too. But ultimately, there's a really feminine way and an increasingly feminine way we can do this work that I think, is the most supportive. And that's really what I care about the most. That's a great question. So someone asked, how many women do I serve simultaneously? And this also goes back to professionalization. So to put it in perspective, many midwives that work in more of a group practice, perhaps they have a birth center or something like that, they may serve 8 to 10 women a month. So I think that model fits certain other needs, and it's not one I'm able to talk about, but I'm sure there are benefits to that. But don't tell me that you can have a personal relationship with 10 women a month. Like, I don't buy it. Even if you're a single midwife with no family, I absolutely don't believe it's possible. So back to the question, for me, it's 1 a month, sometimes 2. And that enables me, I think, to really focus on, again, not just people's physical well-being, but their emotional and spiritual journey and what they are needing. And sometimes people don't know, right? And they don't even know kind of what they're asking of you, but you're there and you're showing up, and you're going to hear and see things that you never would if you were the kind of midwife that only felt like you were the one to, make sure everything was okay and chart her vitals. I mean, unfortunately, that's what midwifery has become in many places, is simply mini doctors that feel like they're in charge of a woman's pregnancy. They tell her what to do and when to do it, and the emotional support is completely abandoned. So if I served more than 1 to 2 women a month, I would not have that time and focus. I have 9 children, and I sort of have I don't have much more to my life, truthfully, than birth and my kids and my husband, but that's enough, and I have my own well-being and my own things to take care of so that I can feel good and rested and physically and mentally and emotionally able to support other women. I mean, it's hard work. I totally admit to that. I think it's a challenge. But again, I wouldn't have it any other way. It'd be super boring to me to just do something else in another way that didn't allow me, to be so intimately connected. So I feel that way about midwifery students as well, with my own students here. That we all are communicating and supporting each other through what's going on in our lives and getting to know each other, because that's what matters. That's what matters when we're at a birth. That's what matters when we're supporting a woman through, something fabulous or something hard. It comes back to our own team. So I totally believe in a team. I just still come back to, the midwife-mama relationship as something that is really intimate and probably deserves to be kept that way, regardless of how we want to look to the rest of the world, regardless of how much money we think we need to make doing this. If it doesn't come back to that, I just don't know what it's about, because that's where I find the joy. So no, I didn't learn how to be a midwife in a hospital. I've always attended home births, and that is how I was trained 15 years ago through the apprenticeship model and distance learning, and now through indiebirth midwifery school, we do a similar thing. We have an online program, and then I have actual local women here that are students that come to births and, learn in the apprenticeship model. So not to blab on and on, because I have to go in a minute, but the apprenticeship model is also another way of illustrating this personal, intimate woman-to-woman connection. And it's also why apprenticeship is one of the hardest things out there, because, women and women, it gets tough. So all of these things kind of circle back around to the same thing, which is, I believe that's where the gold in this work is. I mean, God knows, no one's a midwife for the money, I don't think. I don't know anyone. That's not, that's not the way that, or that's not why most of us do this work. So why do we do it? Why do you do it? Why do you want to do it? And stay true to that, because the world needs more women that are supporting other women and interested in this, three-dimensionality of being pregnant, of birthing, of being a mother. There's not going to be too much support out there for pregnant women and women becoming mothers. There's just not going to be. And one more thing, I was talking about something like postpartum depression with another provider. And, it was really hard to hone in on what I kind of see one of the issues as, because providers, some people practice very differently, and that's cool. But, something like postpartum depression, there's lots of reasons, but one crucial reason is just that women are so highly unsupported in their postpartum by our culture. And so as midwives, are we helping with that? Or are we just continuing this oh, you're done with the birth, see you later, show up at my office at 2 weeks postpartum and I'll check you. What? No, we make a habit here with the team that I have, especially with first-time moms, of visiting them every single day, at least during the first week, and checking in on them mentally and emotionally, and being there when things come up and reassuring them. That's so much. of the change postpartum is normal because our whole lives have changed in moments. You know, we went from being pregnant to having a baby on the outside, and that's huge. So I think I'm blabbing on and on, but that's also a really simplistic topic, and it's out there in the world all the time, and you know, people want their solutions, but really it's a lack of support and connection. And even if, you know, that didn't work, you know, even if someone still had issues with feeling depressed after they had a baby, at the very least they would be supported. So I think that's a whole other conversation, but another way that the professionalization of midwives, we're really dropping the ball. We're really dropping the ball, and we've lost sight of what's actually important, which is this woman-to-woman connection. So that's my little sermon for today. I'm going to get on our school Zoom call right now and hang out with our lovely students. But yeah, if you have questions, you should totally message us or check out our site and keep the conversation going. I'd love to hear more from all of you about this matter and what your experience has been. Because really, you know, the change I think that we need to see, or I hope to see in my lifetime, is going to come from the women. You know, it's not the midwives. We're not the important ones at all. So it's the women out there that are saying, no, I'm not going to compromise on my care. I don't want 6 midwives. Like, that doesn't work for me. I want one woman, or maybe 2, that I can really get to know and that knows me inside and out, because this is how I'll feel supported. And feeling supported and being witnessed in this process of birth and mothering is so important. So the more women that realize that and they know how important it is, then things will change. So have a great, beautiful day. I'm going to continue to enjoy the rain here in Sedona, and we'll all talk soon.